We have LA Kings fans chiming in from all over on the team as we head towards the playoffs. It's a Kings fan feedback edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the past 30 years. Also co-host of Locked On NHL Game Night, premiering this Sunday night, a nightly podcast wrapping up the night in the NHL. Also a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, FanDuel customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. LA Kings are home for a big game against their biggest rival right now, the Edmonton Oilers, 1 p.m. LA time on Saturday. Hopefully you checked out our special preview show with Russell Morgan from Hockey Royalty. This is our normal Friday fan feedback show. No matter when you might be listening to it, your chance to sound off, critique, praise, complain, celebrate our beloved Los Angeles Kings. We do this every Friday, off-season, regular season, and postseason. We've got 17 emails to get to from places from Croatia to Arkansas. So let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it. Our first email comes from Sasan Suarez. He is in Westwood, says he's happy for UCLA women's basketball team making the Final Four. I did not know that. And I met Sasan at the Kings game recently. Super, super nice guy. He says, I'm messaging you after the absolute dismantling of the San Jose Sharks. I just had a question regarding the penalty situation that occurred early in the third period with Mikey Anderson. Off the bat, it seemed like they gave him two minor penalties, one for cross-checking, one for roughing, and they gave a Sharks player a penalty for cross-checking. Then after 2 minutes were up, they let the play go for another 30 seconds, then blew the play dead, and it seemed all the replay officials had to go over to both benches and the penalty boxes to explain what happened. They didn't announce what happened at all in the arena, so we, the fans in the stands, were left in the dark. But I could tell something was wrong because the referees looked very perplexed, and I noticed we had 5 men on the ice to take the next faceoff. So that told me that the second minor penalty is no longer being enforced. So what's your take on what happened? Who's responsible for enforcing these types of penalties? Is it the on-ice officials, or are there higher-ups in the NHL that make the decision and how it gets officiated? In this game, it didn't matter because the Kings were already up 6-1, but say this happened in a playoff game or in a close game where one team scored with an extra man advantage. What would happen? What would the referees do? Would they disallow the goal? Would the penalized team have any recourse? Just very confusing a situation for a new hockey fan. P.S. How does one follow or watch other levels of hockey that aren't the NHL? I can't seem to find any way to watch the AHL, ECHL, or college hockey that I've been wanting to watch, including the Frozen Four tournament that you have talked about. Again, that is from Sasan in Westwood. Okay, well, we actually have an email regarding the PS part of your email, so I'll save that. As for what happened in the Sharks game, don't feel bad about being a new fan and not understanding what was going on, because everybody didn't know what was going on. Even the ESPN broadcast crew didn't know what was going on. Their rules expert was confused at first as well. So when you call two penalties on one play on one player, you have to put a second player in the penalty box so that he can come out once the first minor penalty expires. And the referees didn't do that. They just had Mikey Anderson in the box with the two penalties. So basically, the first minor penalty was served, and it was kind of ended up being reversed. What they should have happened was that the Kings had Mikey and another player in the penalty box. The Sharks player was in the penalty box as well. And when the first matching minors expired, both the Sharks player and the other Kings player should have come out of the penalty box. And then Mikey would have stayed in, and the Sharks would have had a 2-minute power play. What happened was the Sharks got a 2-minute power play to start, and then when the first minors expired, Mikey came out of the penalty box, even though we should have had an extra 2 minutes. So it was botched by the on-ice officials. How would this have been handled had it been in a playoff game? Well, my guess is that because during the playoffs, at the most in the first round, you'll have 4 games a night, and usually those games are not overlapping. They're usually kind of a staggered start. So the point is, in Toronto, in the network control center, the NHL control center, you've got more eyes on one game at a time, maybe two at the most. And my guess is they're double checking everything. So it's much more unlikely that something like that, a mistake like that, would happen in the postseason or in a big game, because again, they're just, some things like this sometimes do get kind of lost in the shuffle during a regular season game on a late night West Coast game. It can happen, but that was the on ice officials that kind of botched that. Our next email comes from Gary. He is in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and he says, I discovered on the Western Hockey League's Facebook page, they have an app called Victory Sports. It's streaming all the WHL first 3 rounds of the playoffs if you want to watch Cohen Zemer. It's available on Roku, Fire Stick, etc. Also on the Victory Sports website. Game 5 between Prince George is Friday at 7 p.m. It's an elimination game for Prince George. They lost last night in overtime. Zemer got a lot of ice time. He scored a goal last night. He was not on for the game winner for Portland. I watched the third period and both overtime periods last night. So that was Gary in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And good news, if you want to watch Cohen Zemer, he and his Prince George Cougars are still alive because they beat Portland 7-2 Friday night. Cohen Zemer had 2 goals in that victory. So Portland still leads the series 3-2, but there will be a game 6 Sunday, 6 p.m. LA time. So thanks to Gary for passing along that information. If someone like Sasan wants to watch that. So I'm pretty sure you have to pay to watch the OHL playoffs. You want to see Liam Greentree. If you want to watch the Ontario Reign of the playoffs or some of the other minor leagues, you can subscribe to something called AHL TV, which is now a part of Flow Hockey. If you search AHL TV, you'll find it. This is from the website, quote, subscribers get unlimited access to AHL, ECHL, SPHL, USHL, junior and college hockey games. As for the Frozen Four, the 2 national semifinals are Thursday, April 10th. Denver against Western Michigan. That game will feature 3 Kings draft picks. That's at 2 p.m. LA time. Then you got Penn State against Boston College. That has 1 Kings draft pick involved. That's at 5:30 p.m. LA time. Both games are on ESPN2 and ESPN Plus if you want to watch them. And then Saturday's championship game, April 12th, 4:30 LA time, also on ESPN2 and ESPN Plus. Our next email comes from Oren. He is in Croatia, and this gives me a chance to mention that my wife's grandparents are from Croatia. We went to Croatia a couple years ago to visit where her grandparents were from. It was kind of a bucket list kind of thing for my wife. We went to the island of Komija, and it was really, really cool. So there's that. So hello, Oren in Croatia. He says, thank you for all your hard work and putting on an amazing and informative show on a consistent basis. I value your opinion very much. So please explain to me, why has Akil Thomas been a healthy scratch for most of the season? As a side note, right now, it's a great time to be a Kings fan. They're playing so well. I can't believe they swept the Jets this season. They are so much fun to watch. The addition of Kusminko to the first line, I feel, has really added to their confidence. And man, he can fake a shot. Keep up the good work. And as always, go Kings go. And that is Oren in Croatia. Thank you, Oren. Appreciate your kind words. As for Akil Thomas not playing and Trevor Lewis playing, I think the Kings coaching staff just clearly feels that Lewis, with his experience, is a better option. Louis can also kill penalties if necessary. I think the reason that Jeff Malott was called up to replace Tanner Jeannot and Akil Thomas hasn't played instead is because Malott is a much bigger player than Akil, and I think the Kings wanted to have that size and physicality in the lineup. I really don't have an answer, however, as to why Jim Hillard doesn't play Akil Thomas at least occasionally. I mean, you couldn't put him in against the Sharks instead of Trevor Lewis. Akil does have another year left on his contract. Lewis is a UFA after this season. My guess is that this will be it for Trevor Lewis, but we'll see. He's 38 years old. He's played over 1,000 games. I think it's time, but then again, it's his call, not mine. Eric in Wrightwood checking in, and then according to an internet search, Wrightwood is located 77 miles northeast of Los Angeles on the Pacific Coast Trail. He says, Eddie, the Kings are obviously dialed in lineup-wise. I do feel bad for the lone man out, Akil Thomas. Do you think it's wise of management to keep Thomas around as a bench captain, or should they send him down to get some playoff experience with Ontario? I see his game rotting on the vine right now, considering the Kings ice crew is logging more ice time than him. I like Akil, and I thought he should have been in the lineup against San Jose for sure. I just think you got to reward a guy for his patience. If not, let him spread his wings with the rain. That is Eric in Wrightwood. Well, obviously, Eric, I agree with you based on the previous email that we just read. I will tell you this, though. As for Akil Thomas, he would much rather be in the press box with me eating popcorn than playing in the AHL for one simple reason. He gets paid a lot more money. He signed a two-way deal last season. He's making the league minimum in the NHL, which is $775,000. But if he was playing in the AHL, he would make significantly less, something like $75,000. So he's okay being a healthy scratch in the NHL because he is getting paid. He also gets to go on the cool road trips. He gets per diems and all kinds of stuff. And plus, it's just cooler being in the NHL rather than taking the bus in the AHL. So I'm saying Akil is okay with it. However, your point is well taken, and I do agree with you. By the way, next year, his deal is a one-way deal, so he will get the $775,000 whether he plays in the AHL or the NHL. Dylan in Wildemar says he's currently living in San Diego. Thanks for the update. He says, I love the show. I will cut to the chase. I love Jeff Malott. I love the physical presence he brings, and he has a great, responsible game. And more importantly, he looks just like how Tanner Jeannot has been playing prior to the injury. My question is, what are your thoughts on the line of Malott, Turcotte, and Hellenius? This is in the likely situation that Turcotte returns and Jeannot is still out. As much as I love the former perennial unsung hero Trevor Lewis, he needs to be the last resort for replacement options. I think this line combination makes more sense because it's almost identical to the fourth line that performed so well prior to the injuries. I'm of the belief that physical presence is essential to a successful hockey team, and Malott provides that far better than Lewis. Exhibit A, Brandon Carlos knows. Let me know what you think. Keep up the great work, and go Kings go. And that is Dylan in Wildemar, but currently in San Diego. Dylan, I agree 100% with you. When Turcotte is ready, he's definitely in for Lewis. And when Jeannot is ready, he's in for Malott. But if it's going to take longer for Jeannot, I think Jeff Malott has been a really good replacement for Tanner Jeannot. All right, we are going to take our first little break here, but we've got a lot more emails to try and get to. I'm going to try and get to all of them next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Daylight savings time snuck up on us again, and if you're feeling that lost hour of sleep, 5-Hour Energy has your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun, but sometimes you need a little boost to power through. Whether you're staying up late watching the NCAA tournament, squeezing in a round of golf after work, or just trying to keep up with your busy schedule, 5-Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. Whether I'm at a game or traveling, 5-Hour Energy is easy to grab and keeps me feeling refreshed. Head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, and peach mango. You can even build your own 12-pack or 24-pack delivered right to your door. Need one now? Grab a 5-Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. There everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized. All right, our next email comes from Brian in Mission Viejo. He says, I was able to go to the San Jose game on Sunday, and that place was on its feet all night. Amazing passing, great shots, and good hits. Kuzmenko had what I can only describe as one of the best fake-out moves of the year, causing a player to spin out and fall down, then around another player, and the rest is history. He might be the best pickup deal for the Kings in the last 10 years overall, as in cost and what they got out of the deal, plus a 7th-round pick next year. I hope he stays with us and gets a decent contract in the offseason, as he fits in so well and is so fast. I believe I heard that the Kings not only broke the record for most amount of home game wins ever, but also the most number of consecutive wins in a row at home in Kings history. Please fact check me. P.S. What are the players sniffing on the bench before each period? Smelling salts? Go Kings go. And that was Brian in Mission Viejo. Yes, it's like an ammonia caplet or smelling salts. Apparently, scientific studies show they don't really help. But if players believe they do, and players do believe they do, then it's like they said in Bull Durham, if you're pitching well because you're wearing ladies' underwear, then you're pitching well because you're wearing ladies' underwear. Mind over matter. Yes, the Kings set a franchise record for most home wins in a season, 28 and counting as of the recording of this show, which is before the Oilers game. And the Kings recently had a franchise record 15-game home point streak snapped in their loss to Toronto. As for Andrei Kuzmenko being extended, talked a little about it. It was mentioned a little bit on the Oilers-Kings preview show that we did with Russell Morgan, where he said there was a comment from, I'm blanking on the reporter's name. I see him right there in my face. I'm blanking on his name. I apologize. Oh, gosh. Anyway, he had said that Andrei Kuzmenko was a great honeymoon player. In other words, when he joins a team, his first year, he's great. And then after that, he kind of falls off. So maybe that is the case with him and the Kings going forward. I think the Kings will offer him a decent contract, nothing long-term, maybe like a 2-year deal for, I don't know, $3-4 million, maybe, and see how it goes. Or maybe they just offer him like a 1-year deal. I don't know. I will say this, Andrei Kuzmenko has certainly helped himself out as far as getting his next contract as an unrestricted free agent, because he's fit in well. He's played well. He seems to love it here. I think the Kings will give him a moderately sized short-term deal and see if he wants to stay. But I do think there is some caution, as it is still a pretty small sample size, but he's looked fantastic. Johnny in Phoenix checking in. He says, I unfortunately do not see our Kings making it deep in the playoffs, any deeper than they've made the last 3 years. Have they improved? Yes. Unfortunately, the gap of talent and chemistry is too wide between where the Kings are and where they need to be successful in today's NHL playoffs. I realize we just swept the Jets in the regular season, but that says nothing. That says nothing about what you will do in the playoffs. I remember vividly Drew Doughty saying that we had figured it out against Vegas, only to be embarrassed by them in the first round in 2018. What have we done? What have we done enough to get in the dance? But the obvious red flags during the season have been the same over the last 3 years, and it's still the same powerhouse we will be facing first. Without a functioning power play, we have no chance. Unfortunately, the Kings have been so hyper-focused on their defense, they do not have the players with the skill to force a penalty kill to flinch. I'm not saying it's impossible, but that probability only comes with a miraculous hot streak from our power play that has floundered all year. Kusminko is a great start in the right direction. Keep up the Lord's work, Eddie. And that was Johnny in Phoenix. Well, Johnny, I would say I'm much more optimistic than you are about the Kings' chances this year, even with the power play issues. We did point out in our Kings-Oilers preview show that the power play since the trade deadline has actually been better than average, but we'll see. The playoffs are a different animal. I understand that, but I think the Kings are a much better constructed team to face the Oilers this season, and I think the Oilers are weaker, and right now they're beat up with injuries. Whether they'll be that way once the playoffs start, we'll see. And the Kings are relatively healthy, so I think the matchup is a lot closer this year than it has been. Brian in Tampa checks in. He says, nice to see some Kings prospects make the OHL coaches poll. Out of the Western Conference, Liam Greenshee was rated number 1 in most dangerous in the goal area, number 2 in best shot, and number 3 in hardest shot. Goalie Carter George was number 1 ranked puck handler and the number 2 shootout goalie in the West. Kings are dealing with injuries, but the Oilers are in much bigger trouble. McDavid is out, Draisaitl as well. If we can get home ice advantage, I really think this is the year we finally knock out Edmonton. That was from Brian in Tampa, who obviously is a little more optimistic than our guy Johnny in Phoenix. Yes. Thanks for the note on the Kings' top 2 prospects in the OHL. Yes, the Oilers are banged up, and I know some people are spinning this as a good thing for Connor McDavid. He's now getting to rest up for the playoffs. I'm not buying that personally. I think the Oilers are in trouble, but again, we shall see. Mason in Arizona checks in. He says, I'm in Utah right now, and I went to the Utah Hockey Club game last night, and I just want to talk about some of the things I noticed while watching the game. First of all, it's nice to see hockey in Utah, but I'm from Arizona, so it's a little bittersweet. But for the Kings, we should not have won that one, in my opinion. We were absolutely dominated in the first 2 periods. Our defense and goaltending kept us in it. The only goal before then was a lucky contact into the goalie. I don't know why we are so bad on the road. My only thought is the energy. Last thing I want to touch on is our passing game. It was either absolutely terrible and we need to never pass the puck again, or it leads straight to a goal. They're almost always super risky, or the other person can't control the puck and it just rolls off their stick. It seems like we don't know when it is right to pass and when it's right to hold or shoot. It's been going on for a while now. A player will go on the breakaway and have a good shot, but pass it to a player who has 2 guys on him. It doesn't make any sense, and it needs to be changed. Let me know what you think on my findings, if you want to call them that. And go Kings, go. That is Mason in Arizona. I would disagree. The Kings were not deserving of winning that game in Utah. I think part of hockey is taking advantage of your opportunities, and the Kings did that with Utah mistakes in the third period. Sure, Darcy Kemper kept the Kings in it until they kind of got their feet under him, but I give the Kings credit for hanging around and then capitalizing on their opportunities. I do think sometimes the Kings have trouble getting shots on, and sometimes I think they're too selective, which maybe is what you're talking about. I think when it's obvious that they just aren't getting a lot of good looks early in a game, that they should take every opportunity to just put the puck on net until they can kind of find a rhythm offensively, and then they can look to kind of generate more plays and make more passes, especially if the game is tied or if they're down a goal early. They need to have a more shot first mentality instead of looking to make passing plays. Let's check in with Keith, born and raised in SoCal, living in Oregon, but working in Arkansas. Okay. He says, I watch your show regularly. You do great work. Been a Kings fan my whole life. I'm 63. Used to listen to the simulcast on the AM transistor radio in bed when I was supposed to be sleeping. Oh, that's good stuff. How things have changed. I have to disagree with something you said about the Kings being dominated in the first 40 minutes in Utah. Even though Utah clearly had puck possession nailed, the Kings defense and Darcy Kemper held them to one goal. Considering that everyone was flat-footed, they still played their defensive system and made very few, if any, mistakes. The hooking call on Gabrikov was horrible. The Utah player grabbed his stick. Anyway, I do agree that it was a character win, and it's awesome to see the team in a position competing for first place in the division. Lastly, I knew that Kusminko was going to be a game-changing impact player. Blake nailed that one. The AAA line looks threatening again, as do the other lines in their own way. Keep up the good work. Go Kings, go. And again, that was Keith, born and raised in SoCal, living in Oregon, but working in Arkansas. So, Keith, you knew Andrei Kuzmenko was going to be this good? If that's true, good on you. I certainly did not. As for the Kings being like dominated in the first 40 minutes, but hanging around, right? You obviously have a different opinion than the other emailer. I would say this: I thought the Kings were dominated in the first 20, maybe only outplayed in the second 20. Yeah, they were definitely outplayed for most of that game, but they got the job done when they had their opportunity. Jim and Sam Demas, he said, says, I've been observing that the Kings have a don't lose the game attitude when they're playing on the road. They're letting their play come to them, and they're trying to play mistake-free hockey, which doesn't happen. Personally, without their aggressiveness at home, they wouldn't be half as effective as they are. The Utah game is a good example. They look like they're going to flame out after a poor attempt to win, then got extremely lucky and got 2 quick points. Hoping to get a win because you keep it close is a bad strategy. We're not trying to have more offense than the other team when we're on the road. Go Kings, go. That was Jim in San Dimas. My only explanation for the Kings' home road issues is that I just think they're so much more confident that something good is going to happen when they're playing at home, and typically it does. And on the road, that's not the case. So things just kind of feed on themselves confidence-wise. I think they're putting in the same amount of effort, but I think it just, at this point, they feel like something good is going to happen. Somebody's going to make a play when we're playing at home, and on the road, it just doesn't seem to be that case. The Kings are back home for a game against the Oilers. We talked about that, but we've got more emails to get to here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. The NCAA tournament is here. The national semifinals are this weekend, and FanDuel is giving you a chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can bet $200 in bonus bets. Win your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to who's cutting down the nets. It is a battle of all number one seeds: Florida versus Auburn, Houston versus Duke. For some reason, I picked Auburn in my bracket to win it also. Go Auburn. I'm not winning anything, even if I win, so whatever. Go to FanDuel and take a chance at glory with the Final Four this weekend. And if you happen to not like college basketball, there's always something exciting to bet on. Just go to the FanDuel app. It is simple to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on all the college hoops action all tournament long. All right, let's get to our next email. This is Jeremy in Cerritos. He says, sorry for the all caps on my name, but the last few times I wrote in, you called me Jerry on the podcast. LOL. But no worries. I'm not taking it personally. Jeremy, in Cerritos. He says, anyway, I want to give some praise to Brandt Clark. I don't think he's getting enough credit for being a low-key pest to any team he plays against. There are plenty of times where I notice him stealthily getting under the opponent's skin, from his first ever rookie preseason game, I think, where he pissed off veteran Mark Stone of Vegas, to this last game against Utah where he put a player in a headlock for squatting at his goaltender. The extra shove here, a small cross check there, and more than likely a few choice chirps that the microphones don't pick up. And he does it all with a blank, innocent look on his face. Little things like that stack up and go a long way in throwing the other team off their game, which of course frustrates them and makes them make mistakes that they probably wouldn't have done otherwise. Clark is like the pesky middle child that makes it his business to annoy the hell out of his siblings, and I think it's a skill set that needs to be acknowledged. Anyway, thanks for putting out quality content on our beloved Kings. Go Kings, go. And that was Jeremy in Cerritos, not to be confused with Jerry from somewhere else. I do think that Brandt Clark has a little bit of an edge to his game. I think he's got a little bit of a swagger, and I think that will only grow and be more evident as his experience and confidence grows as well. We got this, though, from Oliver in Roy, Utah. He says, I was able to attend the game here in Utah on Thursday, and it's the first game I've been to since 2006, Lucky Luke's last season. I'd forgotten how much better hockey is live compared to TV. I'm not sure if they showed this on the local LA TV, but Nick Nixon was recognized by the Utah organization, given an ovation for his time as Kings announcer and his retirement at the end of the season. It was really a nice moment. I'd like to give my own what was good, what was bad in the game that I witnessed. What was good, Kempe, Fiala, and more, all these guys just jumped off the ice as playing at a different level compared to the other players. Also Byfield to a lesser extent. The one goal Kemper allowed was an impossible shot. He played great, and we need to have him play great in the playoffs to have any chance to get past the Oilers. What was not so good, I've been a defender of Clark getting ice time even through his struggles. This game, he was atrocious defensively, and he added nothing to the offense, which is supposed to be his strength. I hate to criticize the kid because he's still so young, but I would say come playoffs, I would be okay if he sees less ice time. All in all, it was a great game, and look forward to going to Kings games here in Utah in the future. I heard there were a lot of Kings games at the game in Utah, which is very cool. Again, that was Oliver in Roy, Utah. Your take on Clark being out of the lineup, I would say, what would the lineup look like if he comes out of the lineup? Because then you would have to move Gavrikov over on the right side. And I know Gavi played well with Mikey, but I think Drew and Mikey needs to stay together because Drew and Joel Edmondson didn't really work out. And if you did take Clark out of the lineup and you moved Gavrikov over to the right side, then you'd have to move Edmondson up to the second pairing. And I think he's much better as a third pairing D-man. So I would say I'm okay with Clark being in there on the third pairing and Jordan Spence on the second pairing on the right side. Although I'm not sure what's going on with Spence, who got benched for the last game. I don't know if he's in the doghouse for some reason, but I'm okay with keeping Brandt Clark in the lineup. Scott in Simi Valley says, lots of excitement as a Kings fan right now, but it wouldn't be right to put anything before Nick Nixon. For the past 44 years and more than 50 if you include Bob Miller, Kings fans have been absolutely the most fortunate fans of any team because of their great broadcasts and on both radio and TV. For a half century, there have been one other sure thing in life besides death and taxes, and that's been that every game fans tune in to a Kings game, they are listening to and watching the best sportscasters anywhere. It's hard to put into words what Nick and Bob have meant to our lives and difficult to imagine being a Kings fan without them. Thank you for all the great calls, Nick. By the way, I should also mention Jim Fox and Darrell Evans as well. If it seems like these guys are also some of the best in hockey, it's because they are. I met Jim and Darrell long ago at the Kings' 25th anniversary silver season event at the Forum, and they have always been just as they are now, the nicest guys and the very best at what they do. For those interested, there are clips of some of Nick's old-time classic interviews available on YouTube, and I'd especially suggest the Tiger Williams interview, absolutely hilarious. Thank you, Nick Nixon, and my best for a long and healthy retirement. Thank you, Eddie, and go Kings go. That was Scott in Simi Valley. Well said, Scott. I don't know how many NHL teams had both a Hall of Fame play-by-play announcer doing both TV and radio at the same time, but the Kings had that when Bob Miller was doing TV and Nick Nixon was on the radio. So we as Kings fans have been very lucky to have those two guys call so many games. You are correct. And they are, all the Kings broadcasters, very, very good people. I've got one more here I'm going to squeeze in. There were a couple emails I'm sorry we didn't get to, but time is a factor. Our final email comes from Kurt in Yorba Linda. He says, hi, Eddie. Hope you're doing well. I want to say that Rob Blake did a great job getting Andrei Kuzmenko. He has fit in perfectly with the Kings style of play. I was wondering if you think the NHL will ever revise their playoff format and seed the Western Division by ranking instead of having the Pacific and Central Divisions match up separately. This way would seem to be more even for all the teams, and the Kings might start off playing a team from the Central in the first round. I'll be at the Seattle game on Monday. Will you be there? That was Kurt in Yorba Linda. Unfortunately, Kurt, I will not be at that game. I will be at the Oilers game, but hopefully we can connect at some point. Keep letting me know when you're going. I personally don't like the current playoff format. I wish the NHL would go back to the 1-8 format. If that was the case this year, the Kings would be playing Colorado in the first round in a 4-5 matchup. And I'm not saying it because that's a great matchup for the Kings, but I just think more emphasis needs to be put on the regular season. I think teams should get rewarded more for having a great regular season. I would even be in favor of reseeding after each round. But for now, the NHL has zero interest in moving off the current format, maybe after Gary Bettman retires, because he's a big fan of this current format. Shout out to our guy Ed in Brea and also to David in Grover Beach. I'm sorry we couldn't get to your emails this week, but we've just run out of time. We had so many this week. Thank you to everyone who took the time to email, comment on YouTube and on X. This show literally not possible without your participation. Quick announcement. I made reference to it earlier. Starting this Sunday night, I will be co-hosting a new show on the Locked On Network. It is called Locked On NHL Game Night. My co-host Shukri Wrights and I are going to be breaking down the night in the NHL right after the final game ends. Really excited about this, and I would very much appreciate your support with this show. Again, it's starting this Sunday night, Locked On NHL Game Night. It'll be on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. I'll be promoting the heck out of it on social media and here for a while, so please check that out. And again, would greatly appreciate your support. If you want to get an email in for a future feedback show, the email address is lockedoneddie@gmail.com, EDDIE. And you can always leave your comments if you're watching on YouTube in the comments section. Stay interact with the show on social media, X, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We are at Locked On LA Kings. For you everydayers, those of you that listen and watch Locked On LA Kings every day, coming up on our next show, we'll be recapping Saturday afternoon's Kings-Oilers game shortly after its conclusion. Hope you will join us and hope we're talking about a big Kings victory. Until then, I'm Eddie Garcia. Thank you for listening and watching this episode of Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you next time. And as always, go Kings, go.